Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Vanamangsa Pariraga Acharya Satata Sri Srimad Abhaychanan Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapurana Ki Jai ISKCON New Mayapur Dharma Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Govinda Madhava Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Krishna Balarama Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Which verse is it? This 13. So everyone speak English, okay? You need translation, sir? You sort it out. So,
I can take care.
I'm sorry for not coming to the program today. I had an accident 20 kilometers away in the village. I hit the pavement and burst my tire. And who can you phone at 2 a.m. who's going to be up in New Mayapur? Namacharya. So he came to save me. And yeah. In Vedic culture, you're not meant to travel on Thursdays and or Ekadasi. Oops. Srila Prabhupada didn't travel on Thursdays. If he really had to, he would pack his valise, his suitcase, the night before, put it outside the door. And in this way, never travel on a Thursday, never travel on Ekadasi. Yesterday I paid the price. This is quite loud, this microphone.
Okay, I
Yeah.
put it a little bit up because
Okay.
we have to do it.
Do what you want, do what you want. Don't let me come here and start buzzing you about.
It's nothing compared to Indian microphones.
Yeah. Oh, Indian. Don't start. Wow. I was by the bank of the Ganges, very peaceful. You could hear the lapping of the waves. In the Shastra it says, the Ganges makes a nice lapping sound, the water. But they were blasting out this music and spoiling it. Anyway, that's another story. So today we're reading Canto 9, chapter 20, verse 13. And we'll speak about Madhavendra Puri a little bit. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamutirayat Nasta Prayashu Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtake Shindata Swakata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Rijyantastoya Bhajani Vidyanoti Suritsatam Krishna Swadamo Bhagate Dhamma Jnana Davisaha Kalo Nasta Drisamesa Puranaka Danodita. This Bhagavat Purana, as brilliant as the sun, has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode. accompanied by religion and knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of Kali Yuga shall get light from this Purana. Shri Shakuntalovacha. Shri Shakuntalovacha. No, it's no problem. No problem. Vishvamitradmajaivaham. Vishvamitramajayvaham Chakta menakayavane Chakta menakayavane Vedaitat Bhagavan Kanvo Vedaitat Bhagavan Kanvo Vira Kim Kadavamate Vira Kim Kadavamate Vishvamitrat Majaivaham Chakta Menakayavane Vedaitat Bhagavan Kanvo Vira Kim Kadavamate. Chant. Quelqu'un? Vishvamitrat Majaivaham Chakta Menakayavane Vedaitat Bhagavan Kanvo Vira Kim Kadavamate Shri Shakuntala Vacha Vishwamitra Any ladies?
Shri Shakuntala Vacha
Shri Shakuntala Vacha Vishvamitra Maivaham Chakta Menakayavane Vedaitat Bhagavan Kanvo Veda Kim Kadavamate. Word for word. Shri Shakuntala Uvacha. Shri Shakuntala replied. Vishvamitra Atmaja, the daughter of Vishvamitra. Eva, indeed. Aham, I am. Chakta, left. Menakaya, by Menaka. Vane, in the forest. Veda, knows. Etat, all these incidents. Bhagavan, the most powerful saintly person. Kanva Muni. Vira, O hero. Kim, what? Kadavama, can I do? Te, for you. Translation, Shakuntala said, I am the daughter of Vishvamitra. My mother Menaka left me in the forest. O hero, the most powerful saint Kanva Muni knows all about this. Now let me know, how may I serve you? Srila Prabhupada's purport. Shakuntala informed Maharaj Dusmanta that although she never saw or knew her father or mother, Kanva Muni knew everything about her. And she had heard from him that she was a daughter of Vishvamitra and that her mother was Menaka, who had left her in the forest. I'll just read the next 2 verses because there's a purport then, yeah. Shatam hiravindakcha griyatam mahanam chana bhujatam shantinivara ushatam yadirochite. O king with eyes like the petals of a lotus, kindly come, sit down and accept whatever reception we can offer. We have a supply of nivara rice that you may kindly take, and if you so desire, stay here without hesitation. Who knows what nivara rice is? Nivara. No? Yeah, interesting. Sometimes you get black rice, red rice, like that. There's different types of white rice.
Fat rice.
Flat rice.
Fat.
Flat.
Oh, fat.
Fat rice. Text 15. Shri dusmantarubacha upapanam idam subrujataya kushikanvaye svayam hi brunite ragyam kanyaka sadrisham varam. King Dusmanta replied, O Shakuntala, with beautiful eyebrows, you have taken your birth in the family of the great saint Vishvamitra, and your reception is quite worthy of your family. Aside from this, the daughters of a king generally select their own husbands. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. In a reception of Maharaj Dusmanta, Shakuntala clearly said, Your Majesty may stay here and you may accept whatever reception I can offer. Thus she indicated that she wanted Maharaj Dusmanta as her husband. As far as Maharaj Dusmanta was concerned, he desired Shakuntala as his wife from the very beginning. As soon as he saw her, as soon as he saw her. So the agreement to unite as husband and wife was natural. To induce Shakuntala to accept the marriage, Maharaj Dusmanta reminded her that as the daughter of a king, she could select her husband in an open assembly. In the history of the Aryan civilization, there have been many instances in which famous princesses have selected their husbands in open competition. For example, it was in such a competition that Sita Devi accepted Lord Ramachandra as her husband, and that Draupadi accepted Arjuna, and there are many other instances. So marriage by agreement or by selecting one's own husband in an open competition is allowed. There are 8 kinds of marriage, of which marriage by agreement is called Gandharva marriage. Generally, the parents select the husband or wife for their daughter or son, but Gandharva marriage takes place by personal selection. Still, although marriage by personal selection or by agreement took place in the past, we find no such thing as divorce by disagreement. Of course, divorce by disagreement took place among low-class men, but marriage by agreement was found even in the very highest classes, especially in the royal Kshatriya families. Maharaj Dusmanta's acceptance of Shakuntala as his wife was sanctioned by Vedic culture. How the marriage took place is described in the next verse. Hare Krishna. This is an interesting subject matter today. Shri Dusmantarubacha upapanam idam subrujataya kushikanvaye svayam hi vrinute ragyam. Oh, that's, I meant to read that one. Vishvamitra. Hare Krishna. Om jnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chaksasun militam yena tasmai sri gurave namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So 8 kinds of marriage. I'm not very learned in these 8 kinds of marriage. I have heard of this one, Gandharva marriage, which is, Gandharva means there's a type of celestial beings, and they are able to observe things. So in the next verse, the king chants a mantra and he marries the girl. So there's no ceremony, there's no formal ritual, nothing. He just chooses her, she agrees, and that's it, they're married. Very simple. If you go to a young girl and say, I want to marry you, and she says yes, and that's it, okay. But generally, you want a big ceremony, all your family members come and bless the whole thing. And in India they have very big weddings, very lavish weddings, they spend a lot of money, and it's a big affair, as you well know. One other type of wedding, marriage, is called something like Raksha. Yeah, kidnap. Now Krishna is very fond of this type also. One time Krishna received a letter from one princess, her name was Rukmini, and she was betrothed to be married to someone she didn't like, this Shishupal. So she wrote one letter to Krishna, she gave it to one Brahmin. She says, you go to Dwarka, give this to Krishna. I have heard about your wonderful qualities. Just by hearing about Krishna, she never met him, but just by hearing about his wonderful qualities, his form, his pastimes, she wanted to marry him. So she wrote one letter, gave it to the Brahmin. The Brahmin went all the way to Dwarka, gave the letter to Krishna, and very quickly he gathered his chariot and went off so fast. He told Balaram, you bring the armies and catch up later, there's going to be a battle, there's going to be a lot of kings. So Rukmini was so beautiful that all the kings of the world were there desiring to see her, and she was in a great distress, going to be married to this horrible Shishupal, who was a friend of her father. So as she was walking to Durga temple, Krishna arrived on the scene, and all the kings were there, all the warriors who opposed Krishna, many of them. So she's very upset, and then she starts to see auspicious omens, and then Krishna comes and grabs her on his chariot, fights off the warriors, and she thinks she's dreaming. How is it that Krishna is here so quickly? So he kidnaps her, and this type of kidnapping means they're immediately married, and it is sanctioned by Vedic culture, just like this marriage by agreement. Another type of marriage is where the kings have a competition. And when Draupadi was ready to be married, there was a competition who could fire the arrow through the eye of the bird, right? By looking in the reflection of the bird in a little bowl of water. So all the kings were trying to shoot the arrow, and Arjuna came finally and shot the arrow directly through the eye of the bird and won the hand of Draupadi. And his warrior guru asked him, how did, oh no, this was another time, but previously he said, what do you see? I may have mixed up a couple of pastimes here. He said, what did you see? So each king was trying to have a go. I see the bird, I see the sky, I see this, I see that. And then when he asked Arjuna, he says, I only see the eye. I only see the eye. So he was the greatest Kshatriya. So when Arjuna took Draupadi home, just as he was coming outside, called to his mother, Mother, I brought you something wonderful. Wait till you see what I brought you. So his mother said, you must share whatever you brought with all your brothers. So Draupadi had to marry all 5 brothers. And they had an agreement, and it was all perfectly arranged. Because in Vedic culture, whatever you say, whatever the authority says must be followed. So because Mother Kunti said, you have to share it with your brothers, then they had to do it. This is Vedic culture. We say things, but we don't keep our word, we don't keep our promises so easily. Another time, Krishna was invited along with other kings, to marry one princess. And the king had set the competition that you have to tame these 8 bulls, 8 very heavy, strong bullocks. So nobody could do it, and Krishna, he very easily tamed all those bulls and married that princess. I think that was Nagnajiti. In this way, in Krishna's pastimes, there is a lot of princesses being married by Krishna, either in competition or through some type of fight with other kings. This is all the wonderful pastimes of Krishna, and this is part of Vedic culture, is that these princes, kings would sometimes fight each other in a chivalrous spirit. Chivalry is one of the 7 secondary rasas. There are 5 primary rasas. Let's say we're friends. Let's say I'm a comedian and we're friends, how I make you laugh. Let's say we're friends and we're warriors. You're a warrior, I'm a warrior. So 2 warriors, they want to see each other's prowess. Bhishma is a king, warrior who loved Krishna, but he wanted to see Krishna's fighting skills. So he met him on the battlefield and was happy to fight with him. And when Bhishma's arrows were hitting the body of Krishna, Krishna felt those arrows were like flower petals hitting him. This is the nature of love of Krishna, it's absolute. So if you love Krishna, you can have a relationship in any one of 5 different rasas and 7 different complementary rasas. This is a great science. Does anyone know any of the other 8 types of marriage? We've mentioned 2. There must be the formal, normal one, where they have a normal agreement between the parents and have a wedding. 8 kinds of marriage. Be interesting to know the other ones. Oh, Vidura, you've looked it up? Tell us.
Yes, I prepared.
You prepared class? Oh, good. Come and give it. Why did you ask me?
Brahma, Daiva, Aksha, Prajapatya, Asura, Gandharva, Rakshasa, and Vaishyacha. So Brahma is when it's the best, it's considered the best one, and it is after the completion of Brahmacharya, the groom's family approaches the family of a suitable bride.
Okay.
That's the first one, that's the best. Then there is Daiva, which is the bride's family waits for a suitable groom. Arsha is when the groom is a rishi or a sage and the bride is married off to him in exchange for 2 cows or a cow and a bull. There is Prajapatya, which is when an eligible groom is enticed with wealth and presents by the bride's father. And then there is Asura marriage, when the bride's family is enticed by wealth in return for bestowing their daughter. Gandharva is by mutual agreement. Rakshasa is when the girl is kidnapped.
Kidnapped, yeah.
And Vaishyacha is when the girl is kidnapped when she's asleep or intoxicated.
It's just, there was 2 in the middle there. Can you, like towards the end, that before?
Prajapatya and Asura.
Yeah, something given in charity.
It's when a groom is enticed with wealth and present by the bride's father. And then Asura marriage is the contrary. It's when the bride's family is enticed by wealth in return for bestowing their daughter.
The bride's family is enticed by wealth in return for
For their daughter. For their daughter.
For their daughter.
Usually when the groom is no match for the girl but still wants to marry her.
So he has to bribe them.
Yes.
Now, Vidura should have given class because he's prepared. I'm not prepared, I just got here at 3 in the morning. Anyway, does anyone know can anyone think of any pastimes from the Bhagavatam where there's this strange, or any of these marriages take place, like when a daughter is given to a sage. What is that story where the sage is very old? Chaivanamuni, yeah. And she was given, she's very young and he was very old and infirm. And what was the story? Anyone remember?
Her father was a king and he was visiting the sage's ashram with all his soldiers, and she was also with him for some reason. And then she saw two glowing things in a hole in the ground. And because she was a small girl, she poked the glowing things with a stick and blood oozed out. But you know, that's just what happened. But then all the soldiers with the king, they were unable to pass urine. And so they were all in pain. And so the king asked Turbanamuni, what's happening? Is this something to do with you? And he said, yes, it was me in the hole, meditating, and your daughter has done this to my eyes. And so now, you know, the punishment is all your soldiers are being inconvenienced.
Incontinent.
So then he understood he had to do something to pacify the state.
So he gave.
He'll give me my daughter.
Yeah. Wonderful.
So she had to marry this really wrinkly old man. She was a really young girl.
Thank you, Bhagavati. This is someone who reads the Bhagavatam and knows the Bhagavatam.
But
Not like,
it's still a happy ending because after he got pleased with the daughter,
yeah, after she served him and pleased him, then
he became young and
he got his youth. That's right.
it was not like an eternal punishment.
See, this is a very good point, that by following Dharma in the face of all adversity, then you get good result. It looks impossible. Like to be Krishna conscious is actually kind of pretty impossible to do that in Kali Yuga. And to spread Krishna consciousness, it's like impossible. Go out there, you read Prabhupada's books, we're all together, it's very nice, we're having kirtan, the deities, then we go outside to meet the people and say, oh, have you heard about this? It's very difficult, very, very difficult. But if we follow our duty, then we get result. And before I said that, I remembered another pastime. Oh yes, Kadamba Muni was given the daughter of a king. He was a sage, a yogi, and his daughter Swayambhuva Manu was the king. He gave his daughter Devahuti to Kadamba Muni, and she served him for long, long time in the forest, in the hermitage. And she became very thin and all her luster, she became like an ascetic, skinny yogini, you know, not like she was a beautiful young princess, but after serving her husband, he was a yogi, meditating most of the day. She would serve him. She also became like him, skinny and worn and everything. And then when the time came, with mystic power, he restored all her beauty. One day she went to bathe in the lake, and these goddesses, water goddesses were there, and they took her and they replenished her into a beautiful princess. And then he also, the yogi, replenished himself, and they had a beautiful married life and had 8 daughters or so, 8 daughters. And at the very end, the son was born. Sorry? Lord Kapila Dev, who was a personal incarnation of the Supreme Lord. And then the yogi Kadamba, he left home. So the question is, if God becomes your son, why would you leave home? Why would you not just stay? So because he was at the time for renunciation, sannyas, he followed Vedic culture, because to follow the Dharma is more important even than being with the Lord. So he left and took sannyas. So from all her austerity, she got all of her desires fulfilled, and not only that, she had a great son who instructed her enlightenment. So in this Krishna consciousness movement, we see a lot of devotees, they join, and they do a lot of austerity, a lot of service, 5, 10, 15 years, as brahmachari, brahmacharina, how do you say that word? Brahmacharini. And after that, they're like giving all their youth to Krishna. Then generally people, they get married, they have good grahastha life. So if you come to Krishna consciousness, don't think, oh, you're going to lose out materially. This is a mistake. You take a risk for Krishna, do service, and all your material, spiritual desires will also be fulfilled. If that's what you want. And generally we want material things, because that's why we're here in the material world. So when you serve Krishna, He looks after you, materially and spiritually. Don't think just spiritually. He does both, according to your desires and His reciprocation. This is an important point. People have some funny views about Hare Krishna. I was sitting on the aeroplane yesterday with this doctor, and she was surprised to know that I had a business and a car and a flat and this and that. She's thinking that Hare Krishnas were just poverty-stricken people, I said, no, we're all really wealthy grahastas. I'm joking.
That's a lie.
Yeah?
That's a lie.
That's a lie, yeah. I told her there's so many millionaires, Hare Krishnas, Anyway, so this is a subject matter for today. Is there any more pastimes we can think about? Any more from the Bhagavatam? This kind of topic, the unorthodox marriages?
Lord Ramachandra, but it's similar.
Yeah, Lord Ramachandra put the bow, married Sita, beautiful pastime. What about that Rishi, the sage, who didn't know whether he was a boy or a girl? Anyways, I don't know the story so well, it's quite complicated. But just the essence of it is they wanted this boy had been brought up in the forest.
Sujumna, I think it's called Sujumna.
Yes, and he'd never met a girl, and he wanted the boy because he had some kind of mystic power. The king needed him in the kingdom to help the kingdom flourish. Either there was some rainfall problem, I can't remember. So he sent some princess girls to play with him, and he'd never met a girl before, and he was confused, he didn't really know, he couldn't tell the difference, he was bewildered. Anyway, as far as I remember, they got him and took him back to the kingdom, and then everything was fine.
There's
Okay.
another one. One of Krishna's sons, Aniruddha, he was married to someone who was quite dramatic.
Duryodhana's daughter.
Who was Aniruddha?
Yeah.
He called
He just sneaked into the palace.
Usha and Aniruddha, yeah.
I don't know really
Yeah.
what happened.
I think she was
She was with her maidservants one time, and she had a dream about this beautiful boy, Krishna's son. And her maidservant had mystic power. So she drew pictures of all the Yadus, all the family of Krishna. And when she drew the picture of Pradyumna, that's the boy in my dream. So her friend, she was a yogini, she went to Dwarka and brought Pradyumna secretly, surreptitiously, clandestinely into her room, into her palace chambers. Now, a princess cannot have a boy in her chambers, it's very bad. So eventually, they fell in love and had a wonderful romance, and then eventually the father found the prince in the chambers of the princess, and he captured him. And they had a fight, actually, big fight, and he captured him. So then Krishna Balaram came and fought the king and took Aniruddha and the princess back to Dwarka for a big marriage. That was a good story. What about the other one where the fish?
Yeah, Pradyumna and Rati.
Rati, yeah. So, I don't remember the exact story, but
He was swallowed when he was a baby by a fish, and he was raised by a fisher community.
mhm,
The cook, when they were cutting the fish, he was inside the
the
stomach.
baby was inside the fish's.
They raised her. Rati was already kind of older.
16, she was already like 16, so he was a incarnation of Cupid as Krishna's son, and yet, he was Krishna's son, wasn't he, as well?
Yes.
There was some intrigue how he got lost and eaten by the fish or something, the baby.
It was Rukmini's first daughter.
Yeah, first son.
It was Rukmini's first son.
How did he end up in the belly of the fish?
Because the demon knew that he was going to grow up and kill him, so he immediately took him and threw him in the river. Didn't want him drowned, but he got eaten by a fish.
So the interesting thing about the story is when she took the baby out and then he was joined to that household, he immediately grew up and became adolescent, 15, 16-year-old boy, and married this Princess Rati. So anyway, there's all these pastimes you can imagine. They're all very wonderful. And destiny is there, and all these things take place. And even our own life, how we meet our wives and family and start a whole life is all one wonderful pastime, arrangement of material nature. It's all maya dakshena prakriti suyate sa characharam yantarudani mayaya ishvara savabhutanam brahma riddhaya desha tistati brahmayan savabhutanam. So Krishna, he's arranging everything. He's giving the karma of everyone. He's a controller. We have faith in him. I had a friend, I'll tell you this story. This is a practical application. I had a friend, he was a brahmachari with me, 10 years. He wanted to get married. He went outside, he put on white, he started a little business. He was doing little preaching, little business. 10 years he waited, couldn't find a wife. He's a good-looking guy, no problem, a good family. So there was this Mataji from Bengal. She was living in India for 10 years. She learned to speak Bengali and everything. So she had some kind of problems and she came to England. She wasn't English. She came to England and she was in a care home for women, young women who had problems. So he, my friend, was going to the women's shelter to give her prasadam, this lady from Bengal. So this other girl was made friends with her, and that's how he met his wife. See, it's very mystical actually. So they married, they have a beautiful son, and everyone's happy. So sometimes you have to be a little patient in life, is my point. And some arrangement will be there for you in your life. Be patient, trust in Krishna, and depend on Krishna. We have to accept our destiny. Sometimes. What is that? Te nukampam manushikshamano bunjata evatma kritam vipakam. Sometimes we want things, we don't get them. So we have to keep offering respect to Krishna. And if it doesn't come at all, ever, then that is misfortune, some karma. But generally, you get everything you want in life. This is a kind of science of life, that everyone gets their desires fulfilled. Just like George Harrison, he's just had his 80th birthday anniversary. 100 Hare Krishnas went up to Liverpool, where he was born, and they had 3 days of Harinam and the Beatles Museum and talks, and it was a big, wonderful event. And you can imagine George Harrison was so unique and special. He gave a house like this in London to the Hare Krishnas, for those of you who don't know. So George Harrison, he was the most famous person in the world. richest person in the world. You know, he was one of the richest. He could have anything he wanted. All the girls. He was young, handsome. He could have married any girl he wanted. So he was depressed. He was fried. He didn't like the fame. He didn't like it. He was miserable actually, and he looked for spiritual life, and he found it. So my point is, even if you get all your desires fulfilled, you'll still not be satisfied. So the whole idea of Krishna consciousness is to desire Krishna and to gradually transform your life so that you only desire Krishna. Savai pumso paro dharma. What is the ultimate benefit? Is to love Krishna without any motivation, to serve Krishna without any interruption. 24 hours a day thinking of Krishna. So this is a very lofty goal, but this is where we have to go towards, and we have to push ourselves in that direction. Hoitakiya pratihata yas yayatma suprasiditi. This is the only thing that will satisfy you. You can go to the heavenly planets, you can go anywhere. You'll never be satisfied. You'll be the king of the world. You'll never be satisfied. So if you're intelligent, you'll be satisfied with whatever karma you've got, and you'll try to be a devotee. This is intelligent. Manmana bhava madbhakta. This is our intelligence. So don't be afraid of losing anything. You'll only gain. Krishna will take care materially and spiritually. Hare Krishna. I could speak about Madhava Pendra Puri for 5 minutes, or we could have some questions. What shall we do? Any questions on this topic? What I've spoken? Prabhu, Madan, Gopal, Prabhu?
I like your point that this example of the person who was waiting or searching for 10 years, I was the same.
Yeah.
Because there was already an arrangement, like you said.
Yeah.
It's a very good point. Krishna has already made arrangements.
Yeah.
And
you have to be patient.
Just trust him.
Yeah, you have to depend on Krishna. Not only for marriage, for everything.
Yeah.
For every day of our life. We have some problem, some obstacle. Little things. The super soul is the ultimate sanctioner. Krishna is the ultimate sanctioner of all activities. In every activity there's the endeavor, the place, the senses, the instruments, and the super soul. So sometimes everything's in place. But unless Krishna sanctions it, still it won't happen. So generally Krishna helps his devotees. Samoham sarvabhutishu. He's favorable to his devotees. It's natural. So he helps his devotees. This is the point. Many karmis, materialists, non-devotees, they're also successful, but the result, unsatisfied in the heart. Because they haven't controlled their mind and senses, they haven't surrendered to Krishna, they have no knowledge. Some of them are failures, because Krishna doesn't allow. So when a devotee is, if you're failing, then maybe Krishna does not want it. Hare Krishna. Be patient, yes. Okay. Any
You just said that you kept failing all the time, so that Krishna doesn't want. How to perceive that? I know it's extreme. Prabhupada didn't give up.
Yeah.
For us, it's like in New Mayapur, I'm just comparing. It's like feeding system. We've been trying to fix this for like last 2 years. We couldn't fix this.
Is that why it's so cold in my room?
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
I mean, like last year we wanted to fix, there was this emergency, we needed to do all this smoke detectors and things. So it's just difficult to see devotees struggle.
Yeah. I don't have an answer.
Maybe when to know when it's Krishna doesn't want us to go in this direction, or when to know that Krishna is, just testing and we should go forward and show our determination.
Yeah, against all odds. Yeah, there's many temples in similar situations all over the world. We're not, in Ishra, in my knowledge, but there's many temples. So somehow or other we have, you'll get the credit. This is your service, what can you do? You cannot. You have to carry on. What to do? I mean, if you just give up and go and live in a house somewhere, you'll be bored in 2 days.
No, we don't have any such plans.
I know.
The only concern is, I know it's of course inconvenient for us also, but to see devotee struggle is more inconvenient than
Yeah.
like,
Actually, Srila Prabhupada, you think Srila Prabhupada just stepped off the boat and everything happened, the flowers fell from the sky and all the... He struggled. This hippie on LSD, going crazy, freaked out, had a bad trip and chased Prabhupada out of that flat. Prabhupada came out of the flat with nothing. He was just on the street, nowhere to go. He went through so much difficulties, unbelievable austerities to bring Krishna consciousness to the West. Yeah, so Prabhupada's our example. Just have to, have to carry on. And then one day, Krishna will just reciprocate. Okay, very quickly I'll tell you Madhavendra Puri's appearance day. So he was a great soul. I won't tell all the stories, I'll just tell one story. He was a sannyasi wandering around India. He came to Vrindavan and fell asleep under a tree. That's how the sannyasis live. If you go to India, you can live outside. It's very pleasant climate. So he had a dream that, this boy brought him some milk, and that boy was actually Krishna. And then Krishna appeared in his dream and said, I am buried when the Muslim warriors came, the priests buried me to hide me from the Muslims. So please come and get me out. So he brought all the villagers, he dug up the earth, and there was this beautiful deity of Krishna holding Govardhan hill like this. Krishna like this. Krishna lifted the mountain on his little finger for 7 days, 7 nights. You may say this is impossible, but the sun and the moon and this planet, they're much heavier than this one single mountain. And they are floating in space by the power of gravity. And what is the power of gravity? Is Krishna's power. Some people, they say they can't believe in Krishna's pastimes. Even the Indian politicians, when they're all westernized, they're embarrassed that they believe in these things, so they call it mythology or mythology. In their hearts they're all devotees, but in political circles and in the newspapers in India, this is mythology, and we just believe in it because it's good for society. But we can't actually believe in these things, that Ramachandra made rocks float on the ocean, and Krishna lifted a hill and danced with 300 million goddesses of fortune. But everything is, you don't know where anything came from. The tree, the sun, the moon, the stars, it's all inconceivable. It's all inconceivable. So anyway, he brought this deity, I'm talking too much. He brought this deity of Krishna, found this deity of Krishna, he installed it on Govardhan hill. Very, very beautiful deity. For many reasons, this deity, Rajasthan desert, about maybe 300 or 400 miles away. And now today you can go to that temple and see Natji, Gopal, and beautiful temple. The whole town is, but the temple, all the activity of the whole town just moves around the temple. The prasadam, the darshans, very holy place, very nice place. Shri Natji ki jai. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. What time is breakfast? Hare Krishna.
Guru Prabhu ki?